Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
Does this image shock you? Well, it should, because what you're looking at, a radical Islamic reimagining of the American flag, isn't just a provocation, it's a warning, a mirror of history. This is exactly what happened to Iran in 1979. A flag with a millennium of heritage erased, a symbol of Persian kingship and Iranian identity replaced by a banner of theocratic rule, Islamic inscriptions wrapped around it like chains. And the man behind it? The Ayatollah Khomeini, a master of deception. He spoke in the language of liberalism. He promised democracy, diversity, a government based on the will of the people. Sound familiar? He called himself a man of peace, even compared himself to Gandhi, and the world bought it. Iranian liberals, students, intellectuals rushed to Khomeini's side. They mobilized protests, strikes, propaganda campaigns. Also sounds familiar. Western media ran glowing profiles. The New York Times praised him. The BBC made him a hero. Even Jimmy Carter backed him. And once Khomeini took power, he slaughtered the same liberal saviors that held open the gates for his barbarism. Mass executions, thousands purged. The revolution was over. The mosques they empowered became launch pads for terror. Their new Islamic Republic became the world's most aggressive exporter of jihad and the birthplace of Hezbollah, Hamas, and other terror proxies. Jimmy Carter's reward for backing the Ayatollah? 66 Americans taken hostage at our embassy, held for 444 days until Ronald Reagan took office. This was Taqiyya in action, the doctrine that allows lying to advance Islamic rule. Khomeini's mask slipped only after he had total power, and by then it was too late. And if you think the West is immune, think again. European countries like France, England, and Sweden are already unraveling under the scourge of radical Islam, and it's knocking on America's door, in our universities, our media, and even government. And just like 1979, it wears the mask of social justice, anti-colonialism, and solidarity with the oppressed. Same playbook, same lies, same useful idiots. The flag in this image? It's a symbol of what comes when we don't learn from history, what comes when we abandon vigilance, when we chase false utopias wrapped in the language of liberalism only to find a boot on our neck like so many times throughout history. Now is the time to expose radical and political Islam for what it is, a system of control and subjugation masquerading as faith. Now is the time to destroy the Iranian regime and stop its shadow from spreading like a plague across the free world.
Welcome back to Training Tuesday. The Rob Maness Show's live on Worldview Tube and RX Spaces simulcast. Well, Iran is on fire, folks. The people are rising up again. But what are the implications for the West? You just heard a lot of it right there. Friends, the lessons of the Iranian Revolution have been learned in blood and death these past 5 decades, since I was 17 years old and had just joined the United States Air Force. Every inch of Western society is touched by the Islamic government there as it tries to achieve supremacy throughout the Middle East using its proxies like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and even attempt to become a nuclear weapon state in order to threaten Europe and the United States. The scourge has been imported into our countries now and is becoming more powerful every day as they win elected office in places like New York City, the largest city in America, and Minneapolis, where you see the Somali Muslims and their devastation and stealing billions of tax dollars. We cannot stand by and be passive as we watch another attempt to overthrow the mullahs by the Iranian people once again play out. With the internet blackout continuing, it is difficult to tell what's happening in Iran on the ground. I'll admit that. The limited reports we're getting is that protests are continuing, but tens of thousands potentially of unarmed protesters are being killed, and they're being killed every night. My guest today is Juliana Tamirazi, the founder of the Iraqi Christian Relief Council, organized to shine a light on the plight of Christians in her ancestral homeland and raise funds to deliver food, shelter, and medicine to Iraq. Born and raised in Iran, she is direct contact with the Iranians in exile, as well as connections with folks still inside the country today. So we're going to discuss the current political and humanitarian conditions in there. Tamirazi has advised many U.S.-based organizations and institutions, has consulted on developing policy, and as a leading international advocate, is a two-time Nobel Prize nominee for advancing awareness of persecution of Christians and other minorities throughout the Middle East. Juliana, welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's been a little bit over a year, I think.
It has been. Thank you very much for having me on again, Colonel.
Well, thank you. I found that little clip when I was prepping for the show, and it is a pretty good roll up of what I remember when I was 17. What was it like for you and your family? You're from Iran, as you grew up there.
Prior to 1979, we had rather a peaceful life, a joyful life. My siblings, who are older than I am, remember a much happier Iran. I was 6 years old when the revolution started happening and finally took over Iran in 1979. And as of 7, 8 year old child, although I was a Christian and I'm a Christian still, but I had to cover my hair
Hmm.
outside at school. So everything shifted. The Iran-Iraq War began. We were not allowed as Christians to worship on the streets, wear the cross. I was mocked for being a Christian. At school, they would try to force me to say the Shahada. Our neighbors that we had lived next to them for a few years, they would spit on the floor when my Jewish friend and I would walk on the street passing them by. So it really became a hostile environment for the Christians and other minorities. Baha'is absolutely paid a heavy price for being Baha'is. Finally, in 1979, in 1989, my father decided to smuggle me out into Switzerland, and again from Switzerland into Germany, where we sought religious asylum and came to this beautiful country in 1990.
Yeah, that is pretty typical in Islamist countries. I got a little bit of a taste of it when I was 9 and 10 years old in Morocco, where Islamists were trying to take over the government there. They tried twice violently while we lived there in the late 60s, early 1970s. And I remember not so much being treated poorly as a Christian, but they would recognize you as a non-Arab. And the Muslims, particularly, were not very happy that you were walking on their streets and playing with their children. We didn't live on a military base. We lived downtown in Kenitra, Morocco. So we came into contact with that kind of behavior quite frequently. But this theocracy that has risen out of the so-called supposedly liberal revolution that happened in Iran it really is different in the way that it's developed over time and the way it treats its population, even now, today, almost 50 years later, right?
Look, he was brutal from the beginning. He gave empty promises. He promised free oil. He promised a better life for the Iranians. And the moment he took over, he began executing members of the administration, the kingdom under Shah. Whoever was defecting or was a dissident to the Iranian regime, they were executing everybody. From the beginning, we saw his colors. I remember my family used to stand in lines to get benzene oil to put in heating devices and to put in the cars, and lines for bread were long. So from the beginning, it was an awful experience. And you mentioned that they knew you were a Christian, at least you were not an Arab in Morocco. I remember when Shah fell, they were protesting on the streets continuously, and they were chanting Shah left, Shah Raft in Farsi. And my mother and I were standing outside our home, and one of them came, put his hands, his fingers around my mother's neck, pushed her to the wall, and said, "You dirty Christian, your father is gone. You will see what we will do to you." So I remember that they too recognized us. But something extremely important, I must say, that now currently there's maybe 20% of the Iranians that are still pro-regime, and they're pro-regime. Some are ideologues, some believe in the ideology, Islamic ideology. Some they have a benefit to still stand with this regime. 80% of the country is absolutely tired of this. They want a regime change, and they are pro the West. They are not against Israel. They're not against the United States. In fact, they've
Hmm.
been chanting President Trump's name. They were chanting Obama's name in 2009 during the Green Revolution. So we must
Hmm.
absolutely, I vehemently reject some analysts saying, well, the Iranians are not really exactly pro-West. That is absolutely wrong. So we need to separate the Persians, the Iranians from the Islamic Republic supporters. And many of those supporters, I've been watching so many reports and reading so many reports that many of these uh, 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 leaders of this regime are not actually Persians. They're Arabs from Iraq,
Hmm.
from Lebanon. Is a descendant of India. I don't know if your audience know this, but Iran, unfortunately, has been heavily infiltrated by outsiders.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to ask you, since you're from there, is just to point out for Americans that may not realize this: Islam is not new to the country of Iran or Persia, right? It's been there a long time, right?
Yes, Iran, a beautiful civilization, was overtaken 1400 years ago by the Arab conquest and Islamic conquest. The original religion of the Persians is Zoroastrian, which is a beautiful, peaceful religion. And it's taken over, even the Persian language has been infiltrated by Arabic terms. Much of the Persian, Iranian, Farsi language is, I understand a bit of Arabic because I know Farsi. Uh,
Hmm.
but now there is a very serious exodus out of Islam in Iran. There are many who are either becoming atheists or going back to the Zoroastrian faith or converting to Christianity. The underground church was fast growing, the underground church in Iran. About 5, 7 years ago, the number was 5, 6 million underground church. Now I'm sure it's much higher than that. People are tired. This is not the Islam that they remember their grandparents having in
Hmm.
Iran. This is a brutal, brutal form of Islam that is familiar to many of us in the West as well.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to get that out there because the Islam that controlled the country of Iran for over 1,000 years is was not antagonistic, I don't believe, toward the rest. Now they might have fought with the Ottomans and other Islamic nations for in a competition, so to speak, a peer competition for power and positioning for power and those kind of things, but they weren't as like virulently opposed to the West, from what I could tell reading my history about it. Is that accurate?
Look, the Islam, ISIS is Islam. The Islamic
Mm.
Republic's
Yeah.
Islam is, I would say it's Islamism. It's an ideology from 7th century.
Hmm.
The Islam that we see today, the Islamism, I should say, that has taken root in Iran, stems from Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood was founded by Hassan al-Banna in 1928 in Egypt. Khomeini had studied deeply Muslim Brotherhood ideology and brought it to Iran. So when in 1979 Khomeini spoke and said, "I will deliver my revolution to four corners of the world," and he did
Hmm.
so. He has been
Yeah.
successful. It is really the Muslim Brotherhood ideology that is also, by the way, in the United States of America. He brought that
Yeah.
ideology forward.
Absolutely right. Well, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll dive into the current protest. See if we talk about the background of why this is happening again, what the issues are, and what the government is doing, unfortunately. We'll be right back with Juliana uh, Taimoorazi, an Iranian, born there, raised a large portion of her life there, and now here in America.
Further south in the city of Isfahan, Fox News was able to make contact with a man who is using Starlink. He described battles between protesters and security forces who are using live ammunition. On the call, he said the government has really repressed them using weapons of war against the demonstrators. At the moment, the situation for the demonstrators in the street, the atmosphere is like a war zone, and some people are trying to escape from it. I have to emphasize that among Iranian people, Trump is the most popular person right now. He has so much popularity because of the steps that he took toward preventing the growth of terrorism in the Middle East. They respect him. The internet blackout in Iran continues, making it difficult for people to get new information, although international calls were briefly going through overnight.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Training Tuesday. We're talking about the Iranian Revolution, the current protests today, what it means for the Middle East, what it means for the West, what it means for Christians around the world and in the Middle East with Juliana Taimoorazi. And she's an Iranian-born person that has come to America through a long trail through the European countries and everything with her family. Her dad got her out in the late 1980s. And Juliana, we don't really know what's actually going on for the most part throughout the country. Iran is a huge country, but we do know before the blackouts started on the internet, over 200 cities had these protests going on, which is really large scale, I think, compared to previous modern protests and attempts to bring this theocracy government down. What is the basis this time of the protesters? They seem to be mostly young people.
Um, the other revolutions or attempted revolutions, starting with 2009, which was the Green Revolution, had been started by the students, young people. And then there were some other attempts as well. Iran has never been, they've never rested. They've never had the time to have a peaceful time inside Iran. The next largest was the Mahsa Amini, murder of Mahsa Amini, who was a young woman who was beat to death because she did not wear her hijab, her scarf appropriately. What makes this different than the other uprisings is the fact that the market got behind the protesters. It is not just the young people. It is not just women on the streets backed by their men. The older individuals, people with canes, people with crutches, children, everybody is out on the streets. When the market closed, those of us who are diaspora Iranians, when we saw the market close, we knew this is going to be different. Um, Iran has been oppressed, and they have murdered those who disagreed with the regime, uh, regardless of who they were. They murdered those who left the faith and converted to Christianity, for example. They imprisoned, tortured, and killed everybody. Uh, but because of the severe economic pressures on the people, on the market, because of the drop in the value of rial, which is the Iranian money, the
Hmm.
markets closed and joined the protests. So this is multi-layered and extremely complex. Iran, they're not all Persians. There are Kurds that live in Iran. There's people in Loristan, there are Loris, there are Baluchis, and different types of different identity. People who attest to different identity who live in Iran, they all rose and are standing together on a united front, wanting to topple this regime. So out of 90 million people, when you talk to the Iranians that are able to contact us, they say this is a prison that all of us, 90 million of us, are here imprisoned. Please help us. They constantly chant President Trump's name. They're begging the West to help. They've even changed the names of the signs on the streets. They've plastered President Trump's name on the signs on the streets. So, and something that has happened now that I don't think it has ever happened is burning of the mosques. They have burnt mosques down. And it's interesting, Colonel, that here in the West we're building mosques, and yet in Iran, a country that is Islamic, they're burning down the mosques and terrorizing the clergy, the clerics. So, I must say, unfortunately, this regime has brought in many foreign fighters
Hmm.
from Lebanon, from Iraq, from Afghanistan that are brutalizing the protesters through different fashions. There are snipers on the rooftops. There are actually chemical attacks against the protesters. The perpetrators are dressed in full chemical gears. They're shooting chemical weapons against the protesters. The stories that are coming are horrific. If I take it can take a couple of minutes and tell you, and what I will explain to you is rather graphic. Um, there was you met when you just aired the report from Fox News, he had mentioned Isfahan. There's a
Hmm.
really reputable outlet called Iran Wire, and they had aired this audio from an Isfahani doctor. Isfahan is a beautiful part of a town in Iran, a city in Iran, very large city, and they
Hmm.
have a distinct accent. So when the doctor was speaking about his horrific experience that he had witnessed, he had this beautiful Isfahani accent. And as it aired a few days later, if not the next day, the regime attacked the hospitals and they arrested the doctors that had operated on protesters. They go into these hospitals across the country. They shoot the patients that are being operated on. With a single bullet, they murder them, or they drag them out and they take them with the IV inserted in these people's bodies. There are people who are badly injured that refuse to go to the hospital because they know that they will be
Hmm.
murdered
Yeah.
by these IRGC members and other fighters. So the stories that are coming out are really heartbreaking and brutal, and the world needs to know. The world needs to break its silence and know about this.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the market part of the protest. Now, if it's my understanding, most of all the cities have a market, and there's been one or two reports on major markets. But I saw a video of IRGC and foreign fighters closing the doors on a market and firing inside, killing people as they were trying to get out, and then setting it on fire. Has that happened more than just that one time?
I've only known very few of this. In fact, I've heard the opposite as well, that when the stores are not opening, the IRGC members go to the person's home and at gunpoint, they force the people to open up their stores.
Mm.
So I've also heard that account.
Yeah, burning them down and killing the owners doesn't seem to make sense if they're trying to get people to think things are normal. The So the hospitals are a target, which is a international war crime, by the way, folks. Just to point that out for all you people that have been yelling about the Israelis attacking hospitals, because they were targets and enemy forces were using them as platforms. But these enemy forces are actually entering civilian hospitals, dragging protesters out, killing doctors, and removing them. Are you hearing from folks around the country that you still have inside there about these pictures and videos of large numbers of bodies in places like gymnasiums, outside of hospitals, and those kind of things? I've seen some pretty horrific pictures, but it's hard to tell whether they're real or not these days.
Yes, in fact, there's been a lot of questions that have been raised about those images, but the reports say in order for families to recover the bodies of their loved ones, they have to pay upward of 100 million, 200 million tumans to take the murdered body back. And many times the reports have said that people have entered. This is just brand new. I just heard that today, that one of the freedom fighters, I don't want to say fighters, but one of the protesters, he witnessed that his friend was abducted. So he followed them and he went in and he saw bodies piled upon each other. That they had shot, and they just have left them in these homes that are deserted. And
Mm-hmm.
so the atrocities that are being committed, and the news is trickling out, obviously, because of the blackout that is slowly being lifted, by the way, is horrific. Is horrific. And they were saying there was a woman who was sobbing on this network saying that they came in with power washes. They killed so many people that the regime came with strong power washes and they just were washing the blood. And it was river of blood that everybody was witnessing. So, and when people were getting shot, they were just regular people that are stepping out of their homes, dragging the injured inside to at least try to remedy, if they are still alive, try to remedy or stop the bleeding. Because if the regime, if IRGC gets a hold of these protesters that are injured, they're killing them with a single bullet. There are many civilians that there are many IRGC members dressed in civilian clothing that are mowing down people with machine guns. Like I said earlier, there's snipers on rooftops. Protesters are faced with these chemical attacks. So they're using every tool that they have. They're patrolling the streets with heavy military machines,
Mm-hmm.
vehicles, to try to break the back of these protesters. But from what we hear, the protests they have dwindled down a little bit, but they're still continuing very strongly.
Yeah, I mean the president of the United States tweeted at them to keep doing what they're doing. Help is on the way. We haven't seen that from a military perspective, anyway. Obviously, the United States and the West are have very strong sanctions on the Iranians, and the attack on Venezuela is going to have an impact on their ability to raise funds because it impacts their oil sales. And It's just tragic what we're seeing have to happen. But the people of Iran are rising up. I mean, they're not. I mean, I'm getting the same kind of reports from folks that I know that have people there too, Juliana, and that is that they're continuing to do the protest. And they're standing there without fear and risking their lives, and some are giving their lives. So we got to take another break. When we come back, I've got a little video of an Iranian that has converted to Christianity. That's one of the things that you have done throughout the decade is try to protect persecuted Christians. I think this it's a good place to have that discussion, and we'll be right back with Juliana Taimoorazy.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
Converted to Christianity and under execution order currently in Iran. So
You're under an execution order in Iran?
that's correct, yeah.
What
So
for?
I'm an asylum seeker as well.
Okay, why are you under an execution order?
Conversion to Christianity.
Okay, how many Iranians have converted to Christianity? I've seen that a million, possibly a million of Iranians are.
To be 100% candid with you, you cannot rely on any statistics at all because we don't have any official statistics
So
at all.
is Christianity an underground church? Is it to have to go underground?
Let me just explain to you from a statutory, point of view. Being a Christian is not a crime in Iran. That's absolutely fine. But if you convert to Christianity, the conversion itself, ipso facto, constitutes a form of crime punishable by execution.
Did you hear that? Yep. If you convert from Islam to Christianity in Iran, punishable by death.
And honestly, it's a matter of propaganda. Regrettably, these days, people want to pretend that these type of Islamic rules and regulations, they don't exist at all, but it's somehow embedded into its textual context, which is Quran itself. You cannot eradicate those verses that you find unlovely or you dislike and then pretend they don't exist and then misrepresent a fact to people around you and, you hope that they believe it. It's just a lie.
With the history of Iran...
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Training Tuesday, and we're talking about the Iranian Revolution, the beginning of it, the almost 50 years that have ensued since then, and then current day, the revolution that's ongoing there. Even though tens of thousands of protesters are being killed by the regime, we know that. We don't have an exact number, but we've got enough evidence and eyewitness reports and video from inside the country to know that there is a major effort by the regime to put down this revolution because, as my guest Juliana Taimoorazy said in the last segment, 80% of Iranians, they believe, support removing this regime, which has been brutal its entire history. It came in on lies and continues to exist on lies. Juliana, welcome back. That was Tommy Robinson, a huge advocate for liberty in the United Kingdom. He's been put in prison many times there. He's speaking with Iranian protesters that are at the embassy in London that came out to protest the regime and to call for its removal. That point about Christian conversion, is he accurate about that?
Yes, absolutely. I'm an Assyrian, and Assyrians are cradle Christians, which means we are born and into Assyrian families or Armenian families, and we are baptized as infants. So that makes us cradle Christians. And although we are living as second or third class citizens, we still have freedom of worship. Albeit there is always an agent monitoring the bulletin that comes out of the church or the homily that is given in our churches. But those who want to leave Islam, they're swiftly arrested, tortured. There are pastors there's a pastor, Pastor Tamraz, who is an Assyrian who was converting Muslims into Christianity. He and his wife and his son were imprisoned. I believe now his wife and himself are in Europe after years of advocating on behalf. His daughter was advocating for him for his release. I think he was smuggled out. I'm not sure, but yes, this man is absolutely correct. They deal with the converts very harshly on the ground in Iran. Yes.
And what about Christians in the rest of the world? The organizations the denominations like Catholics and Southern Baptists, Protestants, do they provide assistance? Do they have ongoing efforts that work with your organizations like yours, to try to fight this persecution?
So my organization, thank you for bringing this up because my organization, the reason it's called Iraqi Christian Relief Council, I'm an Assyrian. The ancestral homeland is Iraq for us, northern Iraq. And with the invasion of Iraq, 1.5 million Assyrians became devastated because of Islamism, Al Qaeda, and ISIS. So the church in the West, to a level, to a degree, mainly after ISIS, because it saw the brutality of ISIS after 2014,
Mhm.
rose and assisted for probably a couple of years. That's Iraq. But today, just for your audience's information, out of 1.5 million in Iraq, we only have 100,000 Assyrians left. Everyone left the country or was murdered and devastated. In terms of Iran, there are very sophisticated and behind the veil, if you will, churches that support the underground church in Iran. The Assyrian or Armenian relationship inside Iran, as well as the Jewish relationship inside Iran with the
Mhm.
diaspora, it has to be very careful because if we have any connection, those of us who are speaking against the tyranny in Iran, we don't have any connection with the Iranian church, with the Assyrian church, because, or if we do, it has to be quiet because we're afraid for our own people on the ground. So I say Assyrians in diaspora stand with the Iranian people. I say that because that is not a connection to the Assyrians in Iran, but Assyrians in diaspora stand with the persecuted Christians in Iran, especially with the freedom-loving Iranians right now.
From your contacts, are you getting any indication that Christians are rising up as part of this uprising in large numbers to support it, or are they mainly still underground?
So it depends on what type of Christians you're referring to. If you're referring to the Iranian, the cradle Christians, if you will, Armenians, Assyrians, we know that 18 Armenians were killed during the protest because they were out on the streets showing solidarity with their brethren, Iranian brethren, Persian brethren on the ground in Iran. Um, I am certain, without a doubt, that there are countless of underground Persian Christians that are on the streets being slaughtered today. So it is crucial um, that the West listens to their cries. The silence, we can't afford silence. Elie Wiesel said, opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. So, my message, thank you for bringing this up. This is very important, Colonel. My message to your listeners, to your viewers, to the Western Christians, to the American Christians is please hear the cries of these Iranians that are on the front lines fighting jihad. Look, they're on the front lines fighting for us, for Western civilization, for civilization in its entirety. So please don't become indifferent to their plight. Contact your members of the House and Senate, contact your representatives, and voice your concern for all of Iran, not just Christians in Iran, for all of Iran, because these people have suffered half a century for just their basic necessities, their basic human rights. If you only knew, Colonel, how many young people have died. We view their images and they're just heartbreaking. Children have been shot in their faces. And even prominent
Mhm.
individuals, athletes, singers, uh, writers, authors, they have been murdered on the streets of Iran. So the Persian heritage, the Persian civilization, is a beautiful one. And once Iran is freed and we're all able to go back, at least for a visit, we will see the different facets of Iran that is really ever so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, even under Islamic rulers before this episode of Islam, the Persian people were able to continue to persist. Their art, their science, their economic models all still existed up until just shy of 50 years ago. Really, even people that say the Shah was a despot and a tyrant through their governance, still were able to survive as a Persian identity and those kind of things. And I know that they've been the theocracy now has been trying to kill that off tremendously. Obviously, with what they do even to the flag and butchering up Farsi, the Persian language, with Arabic and those kinds of things. The one of the questions that
Colonel,
I had.
may I say
Go ahead.
something? I'm so
Go ahead.
sorry, if I may,
Go ahead.
just for a moment.
Go
Uh,
ahead.
the king of Iran, his father and he himself brought a lot of modernity to Iran.
Hmm.
And he had given freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion. Uh, so and now we see on the streets of Iran and also diaspora Iranians, majority of them are calling, they're saying Javid Shah means long live the king. They were calling Reza Shah's name just not that long ago. And they're calling for the crown prince to go back, and he is willing to go back and to only help with the transition, with his team to help the transition. He does not want to establish a monarchy. He wants to go back. He wants to enable Iran to have a free and fair and democratic election. So I know that there is a very big divide among Iranians between Mujahideen Khalq and those who support the crown prince, but we really have to listen to what this, on the streets of Iran, what they're chanting, and they're chanting
Hmm.
the name of the crown prince for him to go back.
Well, there are some. There are some. That's undeniable. The question is the numbers. And the bigger question with the Shah is his lack of organization throughout the country. And you brought up the MEC. The MEC has a resistance organization that is embedded in the country and has been for many, many years. And what I've called for is for that divide to be crossed and for these two separate parts of the diaspora to come together, because unless they work together, this revolution will fail too. And if they do come together and the crown prince keeps his word and the folks in the other organization, the NCRI, keep their word, then we could see a new Democratic Republic of Iran emerge that's even better than what it was in 1979 under Mr. Pahlavi's dad. And everything. And that's what I'm hoping for. I really do want to see that. But there's a lot of disinformation campaigns out there. And in the next segment, we're going to dedicate all of that to what I call the fifth generation warfare. If you've ever read Mike Flynn's book on fifth generation warfare, that's exactly what's going on because even the IRGC is posed as one side or the other in the resistance movement, and they get in crowds. They stir up crowds. They commit violence. I believe it's even happened here in the United States, out with the Los Angeles event with that the moving truck that had the banner on it and everything. I think I would be willing to wager as much money as I've ever wagered, which isn't very much. I'm not a gambler. That there is probably IRGC involvement in both sides of that incident, because they're trying to get things stirred up between the Iranians that love their country and want this revolution to succeed. So yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. We need to push for them to come together so that we can support them and that they can support what's going on inside the country, and tell the folks that are inside the country, don't fight each other. If you come across each other, support each other, right?
Unity is a divided house falls, right? So
Yeah,
unity
exactly.
is very important, and children are being murdered on the streets. So we have to come together to help free Iran.
Yeah, and I think based on what these groups of resistors have said on both sides of this issue, uh, we have high hopes that the sunlight will once again shine on all of Iran, and the Persian people will be free again, free to worship as they please without fear of being brutalized, and even be a Christian without fear of having the Islamist police come into your church and question your messaging. Well, we got to take one more break. When we come back, we'll see a little video about the information war. Juliana, I want to get your take on that, because only somebody that's lived in the country, that is in contact with these different groups of exiles over many, many years, has the real focus on what's happening. It's very difficult to discern what reality is with this information war that's happening. We'll be right back with Juliana Taimoorazy.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
Hands off Iran.
What about the women of Iran that are asking to be free?
We'll let people in Iran determine their own destiny.
They've been trying to liberate themselves for a while.
So we're in New York City, and I was curious, who are the people that are calling for hands off Iran? No!
We're trying to, liberate Iran from, the oppressors.
Who are the oppressors?
Israel state, American government.
I see a regime in Iran that has looked at every opportunity to de-escalate the situation.
So hands off the Ayatollahs.
That's a religious title, no different than a rabbi or a minister.
This is just a free expression for some people, not the government.
There's no Iranian that wants their country to be bombed by a fake country like Israel and by American imperialism.
The people of Iran are carrying regional liberation on their backs, and it is our moral imperative to stand firmly behind them.
I mean, I'm from the Middle East.
Where from?
I'm from Afghanistan. Being in America right now is such a privilege, and I think it's something we forget about.
So it's a privilege because you have all the rights, right?
I don't know which media you are with, so I'm going to leave now. Bye.
Okay. Yeah, we're not going to talk to you. Thank you.
Young people in America are confused at best and brainwashed at worst. And it is our job to do the best that we can with American values and with actual peace, liberty, and freedom for all.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Training Tuesday, and we're in our last segment with our guest, Iranian-born Juliana Taimoorazy, who is a fighter for persecuted Christians, has been for many, many years. And Juliana, that little clip there shows the devastation that can be wrought on people's minds with information warfare. I don't know if you picked up on it, but those are Americans in America, most of them, some refugees from, like the young lady from Afghanistan. But by and large, they're spewing information, I believe, that's coming right out of the IRGC because it's their messaging. And that's why I brought up the truck incident out in Los Angeles, because there is so much bad information that's being put out by different entities, and the government of the United States and the West are not able to tell the people, hey, here's what's coming from Iran, here's what's coming from non-government organizations, here's what's coming from our government, here's what's coming from the media that's not government oriented, and you end up with exactly what you just saw there. People are all over the place. And one of the things that I'm disappointed in is all these millions of Americans that were rising up complaining about Israel's defensive response in Gaza that was aggressive, and rightfully so, because of the Holocaust-like event that happened on October 7th, 2023, are dead silent. What's your take on all this, and any ideas on how to help people fight to get to the truth and get beyond this stuff?
This is such a complex question, such a complex situation to answer in 5-10 minutes. I believe that this attack on Western civilization, calling America imperialist, and those who took to the streets supposedly chanting for Gaza, underneath it all, I believe, is a movement against capitalism. It's a movement against our way of life in the West. And of course, anti-Israel. And it's steeped in anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism. So why are they quiet towards this? I think because, first of all, the basic information is that Iranians are not anti-Israel. Majority of Iranians, 80% of Iranians, if I may say, is not anti-Israel, not anti-Jewish. So we saw on the streets of Europe, even in Iran, there were so many messages of support for the Jewish people, for Israel, starting in October 2023. And we have to go back. Where is this coming from? It comes back from the time when Cyrus freed the Jews and took them out of the Babylonian Empire. So the relationship between the Jews and the Assyrians is not starting in 2003. It's very old. That's number one. Number two, Muslim Brotherhood is a very patient ideology, and it has worked tirelessly to it's planted seeds and put its roots in Western, in America especially. So the protests that had been taken on to the streets, the protesters, a lot of them were bribed, a lot of them are brainwashed, and they're not going to stand with a nation that is Western loving, American loving, Jewish or Israeli loving movement inside Iran, because it stands harshly, strikingly against their own ideology. Many of them, I don't even know what they stand for, because if you recall, when they were asked what river, what sea, they couldn't answer. And there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation about the Iranians, about the Jews, about Zionism, what Zionism is. These people, I would say, they're self-hating Westerners that don't understand, and many of them members of LGBTQ, not understanding that if they were on the streets of Iran, if they were in Gaza, they would be thrown off the rooftops. And so I think what worries me, Colonel, is the leadership that we have currently in Congress and in power. They came right after the Holocaust. They were raised with the idea that a Holocaust did happen, and they were pro-Israel, pro-Jewish after the establishment of only one state for the Jews out of how many that are Arab, that are Muslim countries in that sea of Islamism. What my worry is that the next 10 to 20 years, we will see a very major shift in the way that America is going to be ruled, because of the education system that is raising and nurturing these kids that are going to be in power in 20 years from now. So Muslim Brotherhood has found its roots in our education system, in our media, and people don't read. American people have been stripped of their critical thinking skills. They read the headline, they're misinformed, they don't read deeply, They're not educating themselves of complexity of issues in Israel, the Arab-Israeli conflict, the freedom-loving people in Iran and IRGC systems. So, of course, I mean, should we really be surprised with who takes to the streets and what they're standing for? I'm not surprised. I'm actually heartbroken. What is the remedy? What is the solution? If it's taken them 80 years to bring this up from Frankfurt School, it's going to be, I think it's going to take 180 years for us to turn this around. And I'm extremely worried about our way of life here in the US, and I'm very worried for Israel.
Yeah, so am I. And I'm by no means a fan of foreign aid, foreign military aid especially. But I am a fan of the nation's right to defend themselves to the maximum that they see as necessary, like what they are doing and have been doing against these Islamist groups and countries that have surrounded them for years. And I'm not going to ever back off of that because it's a basic right that Americans all signed up to, either as by birth or at the very beginning when my ancestor fought in the American Revolution through the Declaration of Independence, which we're celebrating 250 years of this year, Juliana. And that's what the Iranian people are just fighting to get that back. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are very simple words and generalized, but they cover just so much territory. And I agree with you. I think we are in danger of losing American society. And if American society goes away from freedom and towards a religious theocracy like the Muslim Brotherhood would like to see happen, then all the other Western cultures that are still surviving will fall shortly thereafter, and something will have to rise up out of the ashes in order to reinstate it. You mentioned Cyrus, who was a Persian, and how he freed the Jewish people from the Babylonians. But it's just an indicator of why it's so important to remove the mullahs and that regime and return the governance of Iran and the Persian people back to one that really even goes further than what the Shah did and acknowledges the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and have a non-religious government in that part of the world, doesn't it?
Yes, there has to be a separation of church and state. That's a must, especially in Iran. And I think in the region, the country that is hungry and that will honor true democracy, through true doctrine of human rights, is going to be the Persian people in Iran. And really, they're fighting, like I said earlier, they're fighting jihad, they're fighting for world civilization. And when with a peaceful Iran, with an Iran that is free, an Iran that does not have its stronghold on Syria, on Iraq, on Lebanon, on Hamas, on Hamas, they created Hamas, and on Yemen, I think we're going to be looking at a much better region, therefore a much better world. Because right now, Iranian regime, IRGC, used to make fun and say, "Why are you calling it Iraq? It's Iran 2.0." Now that Syria is no longer on their side, Hezbollah is weakened, Hamas is weakened. Although Syria, as you see, as of yesterday and the day before, it's sinking into its own struggles and in its own tragedy. By the way, the Assyrian people, my people, were attacked by 3 missiles in northeast Syria just yesterday. So the complexity of the region, going back to earlier, what this segment what began with, the region is very complex, and people really need to take time to read the different power players that are there, stakeholders, Qatar, Turkey. Turkey's desire to have a new Ottoman Empire is fast approaching because it's controlling Syria now. And so I think we are in need of a stable Iran that is not run by theocrats.
You're absolutely right. Well, tell folks, we're running out of time here. Tell folks real quickly how to find your organization so they can help.
Thank you. We are in desperate need of assistance in order to help the persecuted Christians in the region. And when Iran sanctions are lifted, please, we will need your help. IraqiChristianRelief.org, IraqiChristianRelief.org. Please go and visit our work. We've been working for 19 years to save the persecuted Christians in the Middle East.
Thank you very much, Juliana. And I would just add, pray for peace. Pray for the people, especially the Christians across the Middle East, not just in Iran, but Juliana mentioned Syria and the northern part of Iraq and all over Iraq. I have Christian friends from Iraq specifically that I have not heard from in more than 10 years. So all of those families need our prayers and our help. And Juliana's group is a great place to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you. Tomorrow's Whistleblower Wednesday. The great Jake Novak of the Real America's Sunrise Early Edition will be with us because we got a lot to talk about. Marxists and Islamists going into a Baptist church, Southern Baptist Church in Minneapolis, and disrupting services. That's just the beginning of what has happened to the people, like the people of the Iranian population, especially the Christian population. This is just the beginning. Well, we've got to find a way to fight it. I'll see you then.